Symmetry.
Thank you for invitation. Give me an opportunity to give a talk. Today I will talk about the that's okay. Today I will talk about the SYK model, global symmetry, and the supersymmetry SYK model. And thanks for the many other the speakers like Spenta, Shiraz, and Palla, and there is, I think there is enough motivation and a lot of review I can use it. So we already talk about a lot of why the SYK model is important. But especially, I just saw that I want to emphasize just one property aspect of the SYK model, why it is so interesting. So SYK model is so simple. So you can do a lot of things. For me, it's enough motivation to work on it. However, if you open the textbook, there are a lot of simple problems that you can solve easily. That's why you are interested in the SYK. The reason is that SYK model is simple and solvable at strong coupling limit, as well as it's maximally chaotic, which is the property of the black hole. So that people expect that is a very strong candidate for the holographic dual to the black hole. So today I will just shortly, there is a lot of interesting aspects of the SYK, but because of time, I throw away all of them, just pick up the one aspect and review it. And then slightly generalize that aspect in the SYK model, global symmetry. And I'm supposed to talk about the supersymmetry SYK model, but because of time, I cannot talk. I don't think I can cover this one unless I invent a negative time. And unfortunately, also that violates the lunchtime bound. So I cannot, but I will try. So review of the SYK model based on the bilocal collective field theory. But you can ask why we have to do the bilocal collective field theory. That is kind of a tool to deal with the Largian vector model. This is, roughly speaking, this collective field theory is some kind of effective field theory, which when you deal with some invariant physical operator, some effective field theory for that invariant operator. And of course, for the original SYK model, you don't need it because it's too simple. Either you can using the diagrammatics or this bilocal field theory, you can get the answer. However, this gives a nice tool to generalize the SYK model. For example, you can do, in the undergraduate level, you can learn the Newtonian mechanics and also Lagrangian. The advantage of Lagrangian is that you can deal with a more abstract system and easily generalize the system and study that. So this kind of collective field theory is also give you the diagrammatic. So if you generalize the SYK model, you have to do a lot of combinatorics and diagrammatics, and you have to also worry about the sign. But here you can just do the path integral and a very simple calculation. And in my talk, I will not talk about the diagrammatic because it can be very easily done by path integral. So SYK model is nothing but quantum mechanics of the M-minor fermion, and previous talk is already discussed a lot, so I will just skip these slides. And then we are interested in Largian, so that we can focus on the ON singular sector. So for that singular sector, it's natural to define the ON invariant, which is the bilocal field. You can think it as a kind of radial coordinate. So this chi is a kind of Cartesian coordinate. And if your system is rotational invariant, it's natural to define the radial coordinate and express your system in terms of radial coordinate. So this is very similar. And the one thing, very important aspect of this bilocal field is it can be treated as matrix in the bilocal space. So that tau 1, tau 2 is kind of, you can think as a matrix index. and that will be important later. And as usual, if you go from the Cartesian coordinate radial to the, if you transform from the Cartesian coordinate to the radial coordinate, there is non-trivial Jacobian. It's a nonlinear transformation. Likewise, you can also derive such kind of Jacobian from this fundamental fermion to the spiral fermion. So in your path integral, you can just kind of transform from this radial coordinate transformation. And here, this Jacobian is very similar to the Jacobian in the radial coordinate because this is a kind of R square. And this play role of the dimension of that Cartesian coordinate.
How is the, can you track this?
Yes. There you can using some in the path integral, can using some identity of really simple path integral. Then you can derive this one. That is already long time ago. Sakita and also do that, and like in this kind of large and vector models, Antal and Schmidt also did that.
Yeah. No, but there were approximations. I thought there were approximations.
In large n, you mean?
Yeah, large n approximation. Is this something that's exact in n?
Yeah, so it's more like that is really will be, if you go to the here, it's more clear. So it's large in exactly in large n. And if you consider only singular sector, if you beyond the singular sector, no, it's not. But if you consider only singular sector, yes, that is the point. So that's why here, if you approximate it, you don't see this term and this term. Actually, there is integral, but I omitted an integral, so that this play role will counter term.
I see.
So
okay.
And yeah.
So when you say in the singular sector, you're integrating only over the singular sector.
Yeah, your presence, consider only singular sector.
But no, I mean, this is not really true for large and finite. That's the whole.
Yeah. So for the.
I mean, you at n equal to infinity.
Yes.
All these operators are independent and.
So
calculated.
Yeah.
But otherwise, the Jacobian is almost impossible to calculate for large but finite n. I mean, this is the whole problem with the collective field method.
I mean, it's that case.
It's from 1980s.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, usually matrix case, yes. Vector, so okay,
All
yeah.
issues
Okay.
about this large and finite n are relevant to the computation of this Jacobian, actually. This Jacobian is very difficult to compute.
Yeah.
Unless you are really at n equal to infinity, and then you get this effective collective field theory.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then we can jump to this collective action. So I just, let me explain the term by term. The first term comes from the kinetic term. So you define the bilocal derivative here, and as I said, this collective bilocal field you can treat as matrix in bilocal space. So that it's natural to define this kind of matrix product. And using this tool, you can write down this kinetic term as this one. This trace is a metric trace of the bilocal space. And you can exponentiate the Jacobian to the action. So that you have, this comes from the Jacobian. And the last term, it comes from the disorder average. So if you disorder average, you will get this term. And one thing, like for others, they talk about the G and sigma. If you integrate the sigma, you will also get this kind of action. So many people also, especially Shiraz, explain nicely. And if at the strong coupling limit, you can drop the first term, which is kinetic term. Then you have under the rest of action is invariant under this reparametrization transformation. So we have at the strong coupling limit, we have emergent reparametrized symmetry. So this kind of this reparametrized symmetry is broken by classical solution. This classical solution can obtain the large and saddle point. You can derive the large and saddle point equation from here. And you can solve that saddle point equation. You can obtain this classical solution. This is that saddle point equation is equivalent to the Schwinger-Dyson equation of the 2-point function in the SYK model. So you can easily see that it's because in this transformation it's not invariant, so it's spontaneously broken, and this kinetic term explicitly breaks this reparameterized symmetry. So that you can expect that there will be Goldstone boson, and that Goldstone boson is play very important role in this maximal chaos. So you can ask, how can you calculate that effective action? The idea is that we have a classical solution, and you can transform the classical solution by using the reparametrization F. And using this one, transformed classical solution, insert in the kinetic term, which break the reparametric symmetry explicitly. In some calculation, you will get this action, the one-dimensional action of the Schwarzian derivative. Now, you can ask how to calculate the contribution to the chaos of this effective action. For this, you can consider the infinitesimal fluctuation of that reparametrization parameter, so that you can obtain the quadratic action of that effective action. Then you can read off the two-point function of that. Then now we consider the four-point function of the formula, which corresponds to the two-point function of bilocal field. And you will have leading, large and leading disconnected diagram. And 1/n subleading corresponds to the ladder diagram we already talk about a lot. And in order to calculate the contribution of this effective action, you can consider this kind of variation of this classical disconnected piece with respect to this infinitesimal transformation. Then you can read off that contribution. That corresponds to this contribution. And this is more close to what Spenta explained the diagram. Its four-point function is connected by the low energy graviton. And then you can calculate the out of time order correlator, which show you can see the Laplace exponent. So up to here, this is the Euclidean calculation, which is the calculation on finite circle. To get this out of time order correlator, you can first calculate on the circle and analytically continuation to the real time. Then, if you calculate this one, and you can see this kind of exponential growth. And this exponent corresponds to the Laplace exponent. That is maximal, and that's why this SYK model saturates the chaos bound. So this is a very short review. So now let me generalize some other SYK model. Usually, you can generalize the SYK model by adding extra structure. So if you add extra structure, usually not always, but sometimes it corresponds to just extend the bilocal space. So that correspondingly, the star product or matrix product is also nothing but generalized star product in the extended bilocal space. And for example, this extra structure can be replica index. Or this also corresponds to the Sommerfeld dynamics that alpha, this is more explanation, but you can consider this contour is alpha 1, this contour label alpha 2, then this extra structure you can say alpha 1 and alpha is 1 and 2. So that is also possible. Also you can add a flavor structure. Or this alpha is not restricted to the discrete space. It could be continuous, or it could be even Grassmannian. So that if you choose alpha to be Grassmannian, then you have bilocal superspace. That is, I hope that I have time to talk about. So we have YK and we have flavor. Let's talk about the SYK model with flavor. So it's just action is exact same, but I added this flavor index. So previously there are many people, U1 case already discussed a lot by Sachdev. But for the flavor, adding the flavor structure is also in the gross and Logenoff. The only difference is that we consider here you can see that all the SOM index is contract each other. So the structure of the index is different. So that here the action is manifestly SOM invariant. And then it's just natural to define this bilocal field. This one. And it is very useful to think this bilocal field as M by M matrix, because this alpha 1, alpha 2 is run over to 1 to M. As you know, this is a fundamental representation. Then the bilocal field is decomposed into singlet and adjoint. And later you can see that there is some kind of two different channels, singlet channel and adjoint channel. And now story is the exact same. Just add one more structure, and the idea is the same. So here collective action is exactly the same. The only difference is that here the form is the same. The only difference is that matrix is extended to the some bilocal, not only bilocal in time but also in the flavor. So that form is really same. So this capital trace is run over that extended bilocal space, and this trace log is metric trace log in the extended space. However, this interaction is a little bit different, and this small trace is the trace of the M by M matrix. In general, if you're choosing some different structure, then in general this term becomes the Schur polynomial of this matrix. But I show that there is no difference up to quadratic level. So the most simplest one is this one. This is sum of the two Schur polynomial. So that this is the most simple case, and the other up to quadratic level there is no difference. So I just this one. And at the strong coupling image, if you neglect the kinetic term, and there will be, as before, there is reparametrized symmetry. In addition to this reparametrized symmetry, this global SOM symmetry enables the local SOM symmetry. And if you put together, the transformation is the semi-direct product of the diffeomorphism and the local SOM. And if you consider the infinitesimal transformation, the algebra is bilateral and Kac-Moody without central extension. And here, now you can also, from the saddle point equation, you can also derive the classical solution. And you can, because originally you have global SOM invariance, so that the classical solution is proportional to the invariant under the global SOM, which means that it's proportional to the M by M identity matrix. So the rest of them is the same. And then you can easily realize that this, the semi-direct product of the diffeomorphism and the local SOM is broken by solution. At the same time, this kinetic term explicitly broken that transformation. So that you can also expect the Goldstone version. And if from, as before, you transform the classical solution and plug into the kinetic term, which break the symmetry explicitly, then you can obtain this effective action.
I'm sorry, so your classical solution is proportional to the identity matrix in the
M by M. Yes.
Space? So then, the whole the group is unbroken completely. What I mean is that nothing is broken.
Oh, here
in the flavor space.
In the flavor, no. Here.
Because it's identity, no?
Identity. So of course, the global SOM is not broken, but the local SOM, which means that here the only difference here, this is a SOM transformation. Time is different. Tau 1, tau 2. Global corresponds to this G, transform SOMG. The transformation is independent on time. Then it's still, so that's why you will see that. That's why this action is invariant on the global SOM. It's very effective action. So that's why you can see that. So as for this comes from the reparametrization. And we also have the local SOM. that give that effective action, which Shiraj also talked about. And this action is a particle of the group manifold. And this also can be obtained already. You can obtain by cojoint orbit, which is pentadid. Also, Witten also mentioned this kind of action. Now, as before, you can also consider the contribution of this effective action to the chaos. For this, it's just same. Consider the infinitesimal fluctuation and calculate the quadratic action and of the propagator. And we will consider the 4-point, which is the 2-point function of the bilocal. And as I explained, this bilocal is decomposed into singlet and adjoint sector. You have you will have two channels, singlet channel and channel. And from the disconnected piece, you can also obtain the contribution of this effective action given by here by variation or with respect to this infinitesimal transformation. Here, interesting is that the singlet channel, the contribution to the singlet channel only comes from the reparametrization. The reason is that this classical solution is proportional to the m by m identity. So if you transform by the reparametrization, it's still the identity metric. That if you take a trace, it's just it gives contribution. But this kind of if you transform with respect to the S1, it becomes the traceless metric. So that if you take a trace, it's 0. So on the other hand, adjoint channel, there is no contribution from the reparametrization because this transform, this one is the identity, and this if you capture this TA, then it becomes traceless and 0. So that's why two contribution. And then you can also, by using the analytic continuation, you can evaluate this long time behavior. And the singlet channel, as before, it will be maximally chaotic. That is not surprising. And the adjoint channel, if you calculate the contribution from that SOM effective action, then it's increased linearly. Coefficient in n or? So it's a little bit different, Shiraz, because here the adjoint comes from the m, which is finite. So that the order in n is the same. Yeah, so, but the order in m is different. Yeah, so there is you can also.
It is the reparameterization will figure here, no? I mean, so it would be some t term plus some e to the power t term or not?
No, because in the previous section, as I discussed here, no.
Only rho gives a contribution.
Yeah, no. So because here if you varying with respect to the this epsilon, then this becomes the identity metric. Still, I mean, it does not touch the m by m metric. This classical solution is identity, and if you vary with respect to epsilon, it's still identity, and the identity times the generator and to take a trace is 0.
So what is the m dependent?
M here, this kind of construction is based on the m is from the beginning very large. M also could be large, but must be much smaller than n. So m is you can think m is finite or large, but should be much less than n. So so if you go to tensor model, this discussion will be broken. Now, and time 5 minutes. Okay, let me finish it within 5 minutes. So let's go. We have supersymmetry and SYK. Let's talk about supersymmetry SYK model. And the action is given by here. Let me quickly just summarize it. So you have fermion and the boson, and this is disorder averaging. And here C is random coupling constant, and B B is non-dynamical boson, as you see. And here you can write, if you write down the super space, if you define superfield as here, the lowest component is fermion, and in the super space, it's very simple, just cubic interaction. So it's natural to, it's easy to define the bilocal superfield in this way. So that your bilocal field is now extends to the bilocal superfield. And in general field, it could be this bilocal superfield could be Grassmannian even and odd in general. So general bilocal field, you can expand in component. So that, as I said, A could be Grassmannian even and odd, so that, which means the A0, A1, A2, A3 could be Grassmannian even and odd. So that, which means that this ordering of the theta and A and this sign is important in this formulation. This choose nicely. And here one, and for now I introduce very weird notation, which is that, so I call the A bilocal superfield is Grassmannian odd if A1, A2 is Grassmannian odd. This is opposite to what you think, but let me explain in 2 or 3 slides later. Just take it for now. And it's also natural to define, generalize the matrix products. So previously, this is a matrix product, but in bilocal superspace, you can define here naturally. But measure is Grassmannian odd. So then one is important. So I choose this one here. That is, then it's everything is consistent. And then you can expand in the component, and you can, it's just simple calculation, but tedious, just worry about sign. And the result is here. And this is not the typo, which means, this means that you don't have to pay attention to these results. The reason is that I will introduce a supermatrix notation. So this is also very weird, some strange definition. So I define supermatrix as this is A0, A1, A2, A3. So this is let's define it. And then you will realize that the previous the Grassmann even and oddness follow this supermatrix notation. I said A is Grassmann odd when A1, A2 is odd. So that if according to this one, this is odd. So that if A1 is odd, this one is odd, which means that this is Grassmannian odd supermatrix. So the original bilocal superfield is now, if you think as a field, it's like a Grassmann even field, but as a supermatrix, it's Grassmannian odd supermatrix. You may suspect that why it's just a word. That is just definition why it's interesting, because first of all, the first simplification comes from this bilocal star product. So if you do you will realize that whether A is Grassmannian even and odd, this star product is nothing but 2x2 matrix product. So that because of that definition, this is you know how to do the 2x2 matrix product, and this product of the component field is the usual non-supersymmetric star product. So it's more like almost a non-supersymmetric calculation. You can ignore all the theta component. So that is very simplified all the calculation. In addition to that, like all the concept in the superfield is very naturally generalized to the supermatrix notation. For example, delta function in the superspace is this one. According to our definition of the supermatrix, it becomes here, this one. This one is nothing but identity matrix in the supermatrix. Also, like the super trace, super derivative, super transform Bayesian all appear very naturally. So we can also talk about Jacobian. So we can also do the same calculation. You can calculate the Jacobian in the superspace, and you can show that Jacobian is nothing but super trace log of that supermatrix. So that this trace and log is the supermatrix trace log. And one interesting is 2 minutes. Sorry. Okay. So there is no such kind of counter term, diverging counter term. So Usually this come from the non-supersymmetric case, they come from this kind of contribution, but in the delta function of the superspace is if you say that this theta minus theta becomes 0. This is a little bit, you may say it's not rigorous. So you can maybe suspect that result, maybe it's wrong, I mean, it's not rigorous. But that's why I consider the free theory vector model. And whether check, because you know the answer in the free theory, and we'll compare the two results. So that you have free theory, and in the corrective action is given by here. This can be written as here, and this comes from the Jacobian. And if you calculate the saddle point integration, and if you calculate the large and classical solution, and you will see that that is exact same as the exact 2-point function. You might say, oh, you're happy because it is same as the exact answer, but it has a problem. The reason is that here, this term will generate the infinite vertices in 1 over n, which means that there will be 1 over n correction to this classical solution. But if the leading is already same as the exact answer, so you may suspect that whether it really gives the correct answer or not. So you can calculate the 1 over n correction to this classical solution. And then you can show that in the order by order, because of the existence of this -1, there is always 2 contributions. Like this -1 with the order 1, I mean linear term, come from here, and the cubic term with this n will be also give the same contribution. And using supermatrix notation, you can easily see that they cancel exactly. And order by order, I didn't check all the order, but order by order, you can show that it's 0. So that, which means that there is no, it looks like there is 1 over n correction, but they cancel all it. Yeah. So you can say that it's all same as, it's give the correct answer. So that you can, it's the same procedure. Construct the corrective action and consider the, you can add the strong coupling limit. There is a super reparametrization, and it's broken, and it leads to some super Schwarzschild action, and you can calculate the contribution to the chaos. You can also do the in n equal to supersymmetry SYK model. There, in this case, you can, when you construct a bilocal superfield, that is chiral and anti-chiral combination. Then you can also construct that is almost parallel. There is more technical thing, but, and let me conclude it. So one of the very, very important aspects of the SYK model is first, emergent symmetry, strong coupling limit, whatever that symmetry is. And then that is broken spontaneous and explicitly. And then, because of that, there is effective action. So I hope that, like, if you study the physical model, you end up with always harmonic oscillator. I hope that this kind of simple SYK model play a role of the basic building block to understand the strong interacting system or black hole. And the bilocal field theory gives a nice tool to generalize from the simple model to some complicated model. And so far we have SYK model, so what we have to generalize. Thank you.
What we achieve means by supersymmetrizing this model. Generally, supersymmetric theories are easy to solve, etc., etc. So, is there any such thing in SYK model?
Supersymmetric. Actually, it's you mean compared to non-supersymmetric? Unfortunately, in supersymmetric SYK model is complicated, but it have more structure. Like there is some other, like the supersymmetric SYK model case, there is some other channel, like not only H equal to mode, there is another basis, and you can see the many, like some structure and mix each other. And actually, if you just integrate out non-dynamical boson. It's almost same as the SYK model.
Getting out what? Boson.
Boson, which is non-dynamical. Then you can end up with the non-supersymmetric SYK model. So you may expect that there is some similarity.
Okay.
Probably there is, but if you restrict to the SYK model, I'm not quite sure. Even if, for example, n equal 4 case, I have no model. I don't know any model with n equal 4, but probably it's possible. And if you study the super conformal quantum mechanics, yeah, there is a maximum number.